Let's try and gauge where Iraq is a decade after the intervention and talk to Michael O'Brien. He's author of the book America's Failure in Iraq. He's on the line from Washington, D.C. Michael, good evening. The US invasion heralded, didn't it, the goal of setting people free from a dictator. Saddam Hussein's gone. The people are free from his repressions. That wasn't at least a success, wasn't it?
Well, it's certainly that in itself was a success. There's no question about it. But what was the price that was paid to achieve that success? As I spent 14 months over there in Baghdad and also traveling around the country. And the Iraqis I worked with, I was an advisor to the Ministry of Defense, which was being newly recreated after Paul Bremer disbanded it, and which is a big issue. And the insurgency, of course, that followed the invasion. And the Iraqis I worked with would say to me, they'd say, Mr. Mike. That's, everybody's called Mr. and then their first name. We understand that Mr. Bush wants to fight the war on terrorism, but why did he have to pick Iraq to do it? And that they really did say that to me. I'm not making that up. And when they would ask me that question, I honestly, I didn't know what to say to them. I didn't really have an answer. It was a very legitimate question. And then, of course, after... Go ahead, please.
Now that the US troops are out of Iraq, I just wanted to ask you about how civilians are being treated there. They're increasingly falling victim to terror attacks. The question is, should those troops have stayed? Great hindsight question, but do you think they should have stayed or not? Well, see,
we had no plan, after-action plan after the invasion. People have written about it. I wrote about it myself.
Do you really think that's the case?
We all
there
pretty
was
much
no
know that
forward plan?
There was no plan for after the invasion. The invasion, but nothing for afterwards. So not only, in answer to your question, not only was there no plan for after the invasion, like maybe an occupation for a few years or this or that, but then Paul Bremer disbanded Iraq's own security ministries, the Iraqi military and the Iraqi National Police, which is like an interior army. So with no plan for after the invasion for the U.S. forces and coalition forces, on top of that, added to the fact that Paul Bremer disbanded Iraqi's own infrastructure for security, it is not at all coincidental that the insurgency picked up around 2005, 2006. So we really, we are very, very much responsible for creating the insurgency that followed a war that was dubious in the first place. Why did we go in there? The weapons of mass destruction excuse. So
why did we
reason why we went there,
then?
Preemptive attack. Well, okay, there's talk now that Dick Cheney wanted us to go there because we needed their oil. Well, it's their oil, it's not ours, and we have oil here, but the environmentalists won't let us drill for it. So if we go into Iraq for oil, that means we invaded a country to get their oil.
Is that what really happened?
It's not, what really happened? Well, I'll tell you one thing that really did happen, and that you can't dispute it. We invaded a country that was no threat to the United States or any threat to its neighbor. It was a threat to Kuwait 12 years earlier, but in 2003 it was not. We went in there because President Bush was convinced by his close advisors that it was the right thing to do because Saddam had weapons of mass destruction, which, needless to say, he did not. So we invaded a country illegally without any cause for doing it. George Tenet said it was a slam dunk that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. That was a pipe dream. That wasn't true. And then we went in there. We didn't go in with enough troops to do the job right. And then Paul Bremer disbanded their Iraqi security forces, so we were completely on our own. And then the insurgency happened, and the surge that happened in 2007 was finally, President Bush finally decided, I've got to do something to hemorrhage the bleeding that's going on in Iraq.
Michael, we've got to leave it there, but thank you for explaining what you're thinking about that story tonight. Michael O'Brien, author of the book America's Failure in Iraq. Much appreciated.